Well, if I got a church today that knows how to mix it up, I'm telling you, there's a new breed of, I don't know what you want to call it, reformational churches, apostolic churches. They're new. I'm heading towards the NRA, the new apostolic reformational churches, NAR churches. That's what the left is accusing us of being. Well, whatever. We're talking about a case now today where this church is taking on the city and shaking it up. This is the new spirit we've got. Boom, going up against the gates of hell and causing a stir for a good cause. But before I get into that big controversial political battle going on in Texas, I want to say, what do you do to decompress from the stress of warfare? Well, I got a couple of strategies, but nothing beats the fact that I've got the Giza Dream sheets from Mike Lindell. You know, Mike is one guy that's been in warfare ever since I've known him, and he loves it. You want to go to mypillow.com and use the code Lance because the Giza sheets are designed in such a way that they're silky smooth. I just told the staff I want to get them here for the office because I got a cot in the back. You know, I'm working night and day and night. Sometimes it's just like I go take my Edison nap, my 15-minute nap, and boom, next thing you know, I'm up doing Flashpoint at 9 o'clock at night. But the pillows and the sheets, and dare I say the slippers, I talked about the slippers before anybody else did. They are what I wear around the house. You could actually wear them outside the house. I took them outside the house and because they're solid on the bottom. You want to go to mypillow.com, use the code Lance, and Mike has 4 different deals he's doing right now. And I want to tell you this, he's got 60% off the original My Slipper price. 60%! I'm going to get some new ones myself now that I think about it. All right, great for Christmas. Go to mypillow.com, use promo code Lance. Let's get into today's wild show. Welcome to the Lance Wallnau Show. This week we are, we're all over the place. So we've been doing CBS Eye on America. They were covering us. The New York Times covered us. Wall Street Journal gave us a front page review last week. Just got done doing War Room today with, Steve Bannon's on his way back. And I'm excited. I'm more excited about the interview I'm about to do now than I am about all the other stuff, because this young couple is actually modeling the way I've always believed church should be, which is 100% actively seeking Jesus, the presence of God right there in your church, young people attending and excited, worship dynamic, evangelism, and then the altar call. What do you do when you've got an active church like that? An altar call is for civic engagement. One of the few churches I've ever heard of that'll have an altar call because we got posts in our city where people are needed to lead and serve. And so this church that pastors Landon and Heather Schott are pastoring is called Mercy Culture in Fort Worth, Texas. I want to bring you guys on right now. Welcome to the show. First, I've been with you on Flashpoint. First time you've been here on our own platform. I pray that a whole bunch of people hear about this. We got like 30 million downloads so far off of the podcast. So I want people to hear about the latest battle that you are in. You're gonna have to give us a cold start here because our people are just getting to know who you are. Tell us about what's happening and what you want us to know about regarding your church in Fort Worth.
Yeah, we launched a church 5 years ago, and so we're still a young baby church, but it kind of grew fast. And it grew because during COVID, we didn't shut down. President Trump asked for 2 weeks. We did the 2 weeks he asked for. And then we think church was essential, so we stayed open. So we just started massively growing. And then one of our elders ran for mayor and got 11% of the vote, which took the city by surprise, this just non-politician guy that heard from the Lord. And then that led to us starting a ministry called For Liberty and Justice that's gotten over 62 politicians elected in Tarrant County alone. And when that happened, we became public enemy number 1 for the left-wing lunatics. And so we are their favorite thing to write about and hate on and try to oppose. And I don't have the heart, Lance, to tell them that they're helping us grow our church, because every time they mock us and repeat the things that we say, they are preaching the gospel with us. They're giving common sense to people with us, and they're helping us grow our church. And so We learned this as we stepped out. Is that this is? I don't think the enemy cares how big your church gets. You know, so many people get caught up with mega church and how many people are going. I don't think the enemy cares, as long as people stay in the church.
Yeah, that's right.
But when you start going outside the four walls of the church and do what you've been preaching and teaching about for years, about the spheres of influence and the mounds of influence, well, we're going after them. And, you know, church is on Sunday. It's one day a week. So that means we got 6 more days of the week to expand territory and take territory, and the enemy doesn't like that. So we've created a little bit of a stir in Fort Worth, Dallas, and Waco, and the cities our churches are in.
I want everyone to know about mercy culture. Everywhere I go, I tell people about it. And it was Mike Hayes in Covenant Church when I came down here. I was on the board with Covenant for years. And he said something as I shared with him about the 7 mountains. He said, you know, he gave me 2 keys that really rubbed off on me. One of them was, the devil doesn't care how many people you've got in your church on Sunday. He's worried about what you do on Monday. And I never forgot that, because it was like a rhema. I mean, we would measure the metrics of success when I was pastoring for 20 years and how many people came. But he was saying it right. And then he said something else. He said, it's not really about the mountains, Lance. It's about the gates. Because the gates of influence are the gates of decision-making and power within your city. And if the church is engaged with kingdom expansion, it's going to be contending at the gates. And where hell is at the gates, it's going to have to give ground. I think you've made enemies at the gates of hell, and some of them are occupying municipal offices. So tell me about the spiritual battle that you've had and how it shows up when you go from the church to blessing the city and civic engagement. You get pushback, right? What is it? How does it manifest itself?
Well, in the last 4 years alone, we've had, I think, 116 attack articles against us. And we feed at our church 2,000 families a week out of our food bank. We're one of the largest, if not the largest, food distributor in the city. They don't care about how many families we feed. They don't care about how many homeless people we reach.
Millions of meals that have been fed.
We've led
not one article about the food bank.
1,800 people to Jesus outside of church services this year alone. We've baptized 850 people this year alone, most of them outside of church services. So it doesn't matter what we do in the community or to serve the community. As we've gotten involved in what you're calling these gates of influence, these spheres of influence, the same people that are activism, that are pushing the gay and lesbian agenda, the transgender agenda, people that hate the things of God, have actively opposed us from every angle. And the main angle, this is going to blow your mind. You wait till your listeners hear this. Is we have a ministry that Heather founded called the Justice Reform, and we are building the largest residence of survivors of trafficking in America, and they're actively opposing. Tell them about that.
Yeah, so we launched even before for liberty and justice, an organization called the Justice Reform, and I think a lot of churches are revival, and not focused on reformation. And we can have revival in the church, but if it's not influencing the streets, if it's not influencing your city and turning it upside down, then what are we really doing? And so, we believe that reformation is making the crooked way straight. Our nation, there's a lot of crooked ways right now. And what the church has been calling political, what the world has been trying to keep the church out of and saying, those are political issues. You can't talk about those issues. We believe that we can, and we don't really call them political issues. It's injustice. And we serve a God of justice. And I believe that if we are encountering a God of justice and righteousness daily, then we should come out caring about injustice. And so we birthed this organization called the Justice Reform, knowing that there needed to be reformation in the justice realms. And the Justice Reform, the vision of it is answering the cry for justice by bringing reformation from city to city. And one of the major initiatives is building what we call the Justice Residence. That's what Lana was just speaking of. It will be, in Jesus' name, the longest restoration home in America, housing up to 100 women rescued out of sex trafficking. And so we have been working on this for years now, and the city started fighting us. a neighborhood behind the church started fighting us a couple of years ago because they knew that we had a pro-life stance. We were pro-traditional biblical marriage between a man and a woman. We were preaching about these things and preaching the full gospel and truth and
getting godly people elected.
Yeah, and while getting godly people elected. And so the Justice residents became the initiative that they wanted to resist, that they wanted to fight. And that's a little bit of what you're talking about. One of the wars that we have currently been in with the city.
I'm interested in that war because I drive past the building project, I think, the apartment complex. Is it already built, but you're trying to repurpose it, or is it being built? Or
No, it is not built. We're building it on our church property, and our church property is actually zoned for any church-related activity, yet they have still tried to fight us for building this home that will be discipling women to Jesus and restoring and delivering them from the horrific abuse that they have been through. And so it's been this war on what they deem to be religious use.
All right, so Chelsea, producer Chelsea, do you have a video? She keeps running in here saying she's got a video. Can you play it? So I want all of our audience to catch up. All right, let's watch this video and we'll get on the same page with this recent battle.
Time to take a stand.
The Lord spoke to the leadership of Mercy Culture to build the Justice Residence, the largest restoration home in America, housing up to 100 survivors of sex trafficking. They have been resisting us from the beginning. What kind of people would fight against helping the most abused women in our society? The Fort Worth Zoning Commission, led by LaShondra Stringfellow, has lied and manipulated, trying to strong-arm us into rezoning our property. We are not rezoning our property. Our 17-acre property is zoned for church-related activities, and the city of Fort Worth does not determine what those activities are. The Bible does. On July 17th, the Star-Telegram published an article claiming that Mercy Culture had already applied for a zoning change. On September 13th, a sign was put on our property saying zoning change requested. This is a lie.
Almost every elected official campaign that they were committed to fight against human trafficking in our city. We've seen our mayor, Maddie Parker, saying they're committed to fighting human trafficking in Fort Worth. Well, Mrs. Mayor, it's time to prove it. No more politics. No more delays. I'm calling on Mayor Maddie Parker to push the zoning commission because the time to rescue our lost daughters is now. We'll expose every member of the city council and the Fort Worth leadership who continues to resist, harass, and discriminate against us and our faith. We will not be silenced. We will not be bullied, and we will not be stopped, even if it means seeking justice through the court system.
Well, the gloves are off with that proclamation there. That's clear. So you've now have you mobilized your people to call and to do their civic duty, and what's happened?
The mayor was texting State Representative Nate Schatzline before we were even into our second service that day. And she got thousands and thousands of messages by our Bold Church and Bold community. And Heather, State Rep Nate Schatzline, and their team met with her that Friday.
Yeah, the following week, we had a meeting with her, and it was great breakthrough after that meeting. And they immediately got us on the docket for the zoning commission meeting on November 13th. And then we'll be meeting with the city council on December 10th. But it's really important that everybody knows that so that we stay on that docket, we still get that meeting. And we're also wanting to call everybody to be not only praying for these meetings, but there will be a vote from the city council on December 10th. And so we need everybody around Fort Worth still calling, still emailing their city council members, telling them how important this project is to our city and is to us, because it's their job to serve us as citizens.
Okay, so the justicereform.com/bold. The podcast audience, thejusticereform.com/bold. We went a little bit over in this segment. If you guys will hold over for me, I'd like to just ask you a couple of questions. We're going to come right back. I wanted to take a minute to talk about one of my great heroes of the faith, which is Mike Lindell. What's really cool about Mike is it's not just the pillow. It's the fact that the guy makes really cool products. For instance, I start my day off with my coffee. I had a cup of coffee the other day here in the office, and I said, no, I want that. It wasn't like Starbucks. It tastes better. And it was Mike's coffee. I said, what is it? They go, Mike Lindell's coffee. I said, my gosh, get a bunch of my coffees. Now, the best way to start the day is you put on these slippers, right? And have your My Coffee. If you've not worked with these slippers yet, I'm not kidding you. There's a special kind of a design that Mike has put into these with 4 layers of cushion with a solid sole and a fur interior. I call it my sip and slip strategy. I start my day off by slipping on my slippers, then having a sip of Mike's coffee. But you know what else I'm curious about now? Because I've got to check out the 2.0 pillow. The 2.0 pillow actually is designed so that it distributes the heat of your own head, your face. You know, you're lying there, and it makes it so the pillow's always cool. Now, I like that because I wake up in the middle of the night and have to flip over my pillow because it gets hot. Mike's solved that problem. I want you to go to mypillow.com, promo code Lance, because you can get a discount that I've set up for the pillows, for the coffee, and for the slippers. And do it today. You'll be happy. We're talking to the pastors of Mercy Culture in Fort Worth that are engaged in a battle right now because it looks as though the political power brokers of the city of Fort Worth want to get that church back into the church hobbit zone over here, leave the city to us because they want to go do what the city's failing to do in ministering to 100 women that have been sex trafficked and need healing and recovery. And so they're trying to shut this church's vision down. This is a very important case, ladies and gentlemen. And so we're talking with Landon and Heather. So let's pick this up again. You got do you need to have, your people will be going to some of these hearings, I'm sure. They're public hearings?
Yeah. Yes. We'll be packing them out.
Packing them out, exactly. And it seems to me that if you have a church like yours, which is really mobilized, it's nice. It's not like the pastor trying to get the people to get focused. Your whole DNA is about engagement because it's reformation and revival. So how many people, you got like 1,000 people that are in your church right now, or do you know?
I try not to talk about numbers.
I know you don't, but I'm a political animal, so I just want to know.
There were 6,600 people at church last week.
All right, thank you. It's important for the people that are voting and the people that want to be in office to know. That's 6,600, and each of them is related to a mom and a dad and a brother and a sister and a niece and a nephew. It's not like they don't have family in Fort Worth. They all have the indigenous relations, and they go to churches. So, you know, you're a younger, hip couple, and so you got that demographic. My kids go to your church, and I'm sure you got older people like me there too. But I mean, the Christian community, if it rose up in Fort Worth and got wind of this, I guarantee you'd be dealing with 100,000 potential voters. And one thing I've learned about politicians is they take it serious when it looks like their constituents might be involved. And you guys are actually raising up voting issues, aren't you? These people are elected officials you're dealing with, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And if these elected officials don't serve the people of Fort Worth, we're going to vote out every single one of them. And this is what happens. We're just one church that's getting loud and getting active. But what happens when every church in this city starts getting loud and active? What happens when people stop believing the lie of separation between church and state, and they understand that that was only created to keep the state out of the church, not the church out of the state? And when you start getting Christians that are active in the community, that care and love about their community, Jesus said the greatest commandment is to love God and love people. And there's no greater way to love people than getting godly politicians elected that will bring godly policies to serve people. And so as the church begins to wake up, we could literally take back our cities one by one, not just Fort Worth, but every city in America when the church begins to wake up. So yes, the politicians need to know that we are active and we are dangerous. And if they don't serve the people of God or the people of Fort Worth well, we're going to get every single one of them to lose their seat. And we will find competent politicians that will serve our city well.
Yeah, it's also important that people and Christians in Fort Worth are letting their city council know what's important to them. Because we have a city council member named Elizabeth Beck who is working right now to defund the Fort Worth police, put tampons in boys' bathrooms, and these are her focuses of these extreme left agendas. And in the meantime, resisting a project that I think the majority in Fort Worth want to do. Not even depending on what your religious beliefs or background is, but the majority of people would say, hey, we want Fort Worth to be a safe place. We want it to be a beacon of light and a place that traffickers are going around this city and that people are being restored and set free. And so it's really important for Christians to get loud, to be bold, and to let our city council members know what is important to us.
Lance, imagine someone resisting helping the most brutalized victims in our society. Imagine a city council member voting no to building a residence to help survivors of human trafficking. It is insane and it's demonic.
And what's even crazier about it is you're not asking for government funding necessarily. You're not asking for that. You're not saying we need to spend more money in this city on our victims of sexual trafficking. You're saying, look, we'll do the work. We'll do the heavy work. All that we want to do is just don't get in our way. Don't struggle with us. We're trying to bless these people.
On our own property, they're trying to say that we can't build what we want on our own church property, which our Constitution and state constitution support us in doing so.
Now, who's you got legal representatives with you? Do you have Alliance Defending Freedom or any of those guys working with you?
We do. We have an army of lawyers that are as passionate as us. Kelly Shackelford is a dear friend of ours over at First Liberty. And even as I started getting my first few articles against us threatening to take our tax exempt status, I stood in front of our church and said, come and get it then. Because if you think threatening my tax status is going to stop me from preaching the gospel, you got another thing coming. You called us young people, and I'll just tell the people that are listening in the city, I promise you we will outlast this opposition because we're going to dedicate the rest of our life to reforming in Fort Worth, in Dallas, in Waco, in Austin, in every city in Texas that we go to. And we are just getting started. So if you think we're a problem now, give us a few more years. We're going to be a nightmare for you.
Well, I mean, you're 66.
Either that or amazing to partner with because we do what we say we're going to do.
I love it. And so you've got 6,600 attending right there that are being insulted by, those are voters, folks. You don't want to mobilize 10,000 people or 20,000 with your name on a list that they're intent on removing. It doesn't work well for politicians. But then again, you've got guys like Kelly Shackelford who have gone before the Supreme Court. I'm just giving them, so they'll watch this. They've been before the Supreme Court like 2 or 3 times and won cases. You want to take this? You want to take this battle up the chain of command to the Supreme Court and give us all decisions on the rights of churches? I think Gorsuch would like to take a case like this, by the way. So would Kavanaugh. So you've also got with this website, I think you're going to have a whole lot of people supporting it financially. The justicereform.com/bull is going to have a war chest. And they're going to have that war chest mobilized to deal with exposing the corruption in Fort Worth. I'm just telling you guys what you're getting into here. You don't want to kick over this hornet's nest. This is not the time to be taking on Texas, especially the base. So just out of curiosity, what's the timeline for this? What are we looking at in terms of December? You've got a meeting coming up. Are you going to be able to give us an update?
Yeah, so the city council meeting is on December 10th. There will be a vote. Mayor Maddie Parker is one of those votes. So we have 10 from the city council. The 11th will be Mayor Maddie Parker. And so obviously we are hoping that the majority of the city council members make the right decision in supporting and voting in support of the Justice residents. After that, we'll be able to build pretty quickly. Otherwise, we'll be entering into the second part of war if they do not vote in favor of the Justice residents. And so, yes, we would love to come back and give an update.
We have to get
meetings.
it. What is the cycle for Elizabeth Beck and her election cycle? Is that a 2-year office, or how does that work?
Yeah, they're 2-year office and 2-year cycles. And so we're coming up here in May on another voting cycle. And it's a great time for the church and your listeners who are here locally to get educated on who are these members of city council and how are they leading in our city.
Absolutely. I mean, wonderful. So it's a great time to get some opposition candidates in position and get behind them. That's, they're creating a perfect scenario for a storm here. Well, all right. So the justicereform.com is where you want to go if you want to learn more about the church. It's mercyculture.com. Landon is the author of a top-selling book. Oh, here's one, Jezebel, the Witch is Back. I've been in so much trouble over me talking about Jezebel lately. All right, so what resource would you say would be a good one for people that want to follow you guys? You got one favorite book or series that you'd recommend?
Well, we just released both of our new podcasts. Hers is called Holy Disruption. Mine is called Spiritual Leadership. And I'm helping leaders become spiritual leaders. And she's tackling every controversial issue there is to tackle. So
we're having disruptive conversations, which need to happen in the body of Christ right now.
If you go to mercyculture.com, you can find all of our links, all the YouTube channels, all that stuff.
My kind of tribe. I love it. Right,
Justice Run is coming up in 2 weeks. And so this is a race in Fort Worth that people can come and be a part of. It's a 5K, 10K, half marathon, full marathon, or group marathon. So there's literally a race for everybody, and all of the proceeds goes towards the Justice residents. And so if those that are listening right now are like, hey, I want to be a part of this, I want to be a part of ending human trafficking, a super easy way, and a family day is coming out on October 26th for Justice Run, and registering for one of the races and having a good day. And again, supporting the Justice residents.
TheJusticeRun.com. I'll tell you what, these newspapers that are writing these articles against you, they have to realize we're dealing with a digital generation. And there's a way in which we need to be looking at creating some new media in Fort Worth that are going to take on, what is it, the Star? What's it called over there? It's a dying, paper. What is it? Is the Fort Worth Star?
It's pretty bad. It's Star Telegram. It's pretty bad.
Star Telegram.
The only time they get any engagements on their posts are when they talk about our church.
That's why I'm saying I think we need to think in terms of the media mountain, and we need to start launching some alternative media. Look, Epic Times took off. They made a fortune. Daily Wire, it's a business model. We need to get some conservative news coverage that's objective, incisive, relevant, and I pray for that to rise up there in Fort Worth. All right, thank you guys for being with us today on the Lance Wallnau Show. We're going to be keeping track with you, give us lots to think about. We're stirred up, and I'm going to try to get the message out to some of my friends on some other platforms, because as you can see, we have a generation like this that is willing to mobilize the church to do practical good works, and frankly, I think the nature of this is it exposes the darkness, because the evil is attacks you. I mean, you just have to be there, and then the evil shows up. But it's a way of taking territory. Even if you're for peace, God is going to expose where the darkness is, and the darkness will be threatened by you. We're going to be back again tomorrow. You don't want to miss any of these programs, because right on down to the election, every day I've got a wild setup of people calling in that want to be on the show. And we've got some real national issues we're going to talk about. See you again tomorrow, Lance Wallnau Show. Till then, be at peace, because God is in control. God bless you.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.